Welcome back, everyone, to the Audacious Money Witch channel, where we talk about investing and trading stocks, bonds, and crypto assets around the world. Bill Ackman said the United States was set to usher in his adult life's most pro-growth, pro-business administration. Meanwhile, we have Fartcoin, an altcoin called Fartcoin that has just reached an all-time high of $760 million in market cap. I mean, the Honest Company, an investment of mine that sells real products and services that benefit many families, is only selling for $712 million today. They say that Bitcoin is the new treasury. I guess they are right, as we are witnessing history that Texas and Russia are preparing for their strategic Bitcoin reserve. As long bond TLT is down 34% for the past 5 years. In this video, I will show you why it's going to get even worse for the treasury bond market and why this bull market is going to turn on us before we realize that somebody is farting in the pool near us. And I need to get the F out right now.
Before we get to the crash of the bond market and the stock market, I need to show you that even Trump is warning us not to go all in right now.
What can you say to the working person who owns stocks? Should they buy more stock?
Well, I don't want to get into a situation where they do and we have a dip or something, because that can always happen. You know that better than anybody in the world, probably. I think you're the leading authority in going up and going down, but you always end up. He always ends up.
As the S&P 500 is at 6,000 and the market breath is beginning to smell.
What is the breadth problem in the market? I've seen that for, what is it, 9 or 10 sessions now? What's going on exactly?
Well, this would be 10 of 10, where the S&P 500 has more stocks to the downside than to the upside.
Video game company.
A video game and cryptocurrency mining company.
True, yes.
And crypto had sort of lost its luster at that point. Obviously, Jensen Huang is great at pivoting, and even by February of 2023, they were leaning into AI super heavily. And now you're seeing it now with the reaction after Google's announcement, Alphabet's announcement with the quantum computing. People are leaning into that. The people love a sexy tech theme, and that was the internet 20 some odd years ago. It's AI and quantum now.
Wall Street is already taking profit and doing tax loss harvesting on stocks like AMD. This shows the big money is preparing for the next massive opportunity in the market. Speaking of Trump has set out to crash the world economy, as I really don't think there is much doubt about that. He has declared trade war, and he has said that he will also impose economic sanctions on countries that refuse to use the dollar for trade.
In other words, setting out to undermine the credibility of the world's reserve currency, the dollar, by threatening any country that does not want to use it. He is threatening any country that wants to take sanctions against the U.S. because it is going to impose sanctions on them by 100% tariff is going to suffer as a consequence. You cannot do that if you are the world's major economic power and not give rise to the likelihood of an economic crash. Straightforward fact.
So should we be worried about this? Well, yes, of course, we should be. In 2008 and 2020, we had major two crashes. The government's ability to create money to support a quantitative easing program during an economic crash was proved again to be fundamental for keeping the world's economy going. So what is Trump doing? He's relying on another bailout. What does Trump expect if he creates another world financial crisis? He believes there will be a bailout, and he believes that he and his friends, the world's wealthiest, will benefit from having vastly more money in circulation with very little to use it on.
Except for the inflation in the value of the assets that they own. That is what he's banking on. This is literally, I think, his economic policy. This is what he expects as a consequence of his trade wars. He doesn't care that Canadians suffer. He won't care about the countries in the developing world. The vast majority of countries in the world, in fact, who have their debts denominated in dollars, who will suffer enormously as a result of their struggle to find the means to repay those US dollar debts. As for the time being, the dollar is inflated in value and interest rates are high. Long-term yields rise high again as the market prices in more Fed interest rate cuts. With rate cuts, yields on the short end always decline. That means the T-bill will give us fewer returns. Long bonds will fall as the yield will rise. What does this mean? The bond market has lack of faith in the Fed to contain inflation, warning that Trump's tariff threats will increase prices. Advance warning that Trump's Made in America policies will increase prices. That's obvious, warning that the US deficit is out of control and no one can do a dang thing to fix it. The Fed is out of his league here.
Importantly, the more Trump does what he says on tariffs and mass deportations, and especially all of his tax cuts proposals with no offsetting revenue, the worse inflation will get. This is why the US dollar, gold and silver and Bitcoin are going up and treasury bonds are going down, because China and Russia are all selling their treasury bonds to buy gold.
The major increase in gold holdings is a pretty obvious sign that they are bolstering non-US dollar reserves, reducing their dependence on the dollar and thereby mitigating exposure to geopolitical risks. This accumulation of gold could even factor into the creation of a new BRIC currency system. The BRIC summit, which was held in Russia in October, BRICS expanded, welcoming Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and UAE as new members, expanding the group's representation and influence by beyond this. There were significant discussions about alternative international payment solutions among BRICS nations to decrease their reliance on the US dollar, namely BRICS Pay. Now, BRICS Pay is designed to be a bigger, better BRICS version of the SWIFT payment messaging system. So it will be the payment messaging system to facilitate transactions between BRICS nations using their national currencies. Do you remember the last time Trump was president? China sent the world into lockdown. This time, no one knows what it could be. So we need to be prepared. How do we prepare for a crash?
Yes, you need to have cash ready before the crash party starts. Who among us has the most amount of cash pile ready for the crash party? That would be the best investor in the world, Mr. Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett's cash pile just hit another all-time high, reaching a record $325 billion. Today, Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's holding company, is storing $325 billion worth of cash on the sidelines. For a company whose sole purpose is to allocate capital to stocks, this is concerningly high allocation to cash, and many interpret this as Warren Buffett's way of preparing for a significant market decline. Warren Buffett is aware of a large economic downturn on the horizon, and that he's hoarding as much cash as possible in preparation for it. Some people say hoarding cash like Buffett is not the way to get rich, but investing is about waiting. Hoarding can be seen as you feeling grateful for the money that you have and are content with your life, and you are satisfied and happy about your investments. That's a great sage quality and mindset that is very attractive in today's age because you will attract more and more opportunities coming your way.
Yes, the crash party is happening. That is the opportunity, because if TLT is heading down, as the technical suggests, just take a look at this chart. We're having a head and shoulder pattern playing out on TLT right now, and it's not looking good for the long bond holders.
If the head and shoulder pattern plays out, TLT is going to be at 77, making another new low. This will crash more bank stocks. This is why I said you don't want to invest in long bonds and you don't want to predict interest rates. However, banks do invest a lot of money in long duration bonds because they need to pay dividends to their shareholders. This is where you can get into situations where the banks go under. Remember Silicon Valley Bank? Do you wonder what happens to all the money that disappears in a crash?
Most people think that money in our bank account is somehow tangible and real, something that you can just get your hands on. The reality is the money in your bank account is only debt, and that is a debt can fail. And debt can fail because it is just a promise to pay.
An IOU, but it is that reality that is reflected in the fact that when a crash party takes place, money can literally simply disappear. In the event of a crash, asset prices fall, and once the value of those stocks are falling in a crisis situation, markets tend to become intensely chaotic. This time the Fed can't cut the interest rate so much to stimulate borrowing or money creation, or else the inflation will go through the roof to something crazy like 20%. Then we will repeat 2022 again, but get burnt even worse. This will be a once-in-a-decade buying opportunity for the ones that are prepared. If you want to learn how I prepare for a crash while getting home runs in the bull run at the same time, hit the like button and comment down below. Let's discuss further.